Hi everyone, it's Barry from Jerusalem. This week's Torah lesson is Vayaechi. Vayaechi in Hebrew means, and he lived. What are they talking about? They're talking about Yaakov, who had to transform his life from the land of Canaan to Egypt, because now there's a famine in the land, and he rediscovered his son that was sold by his brothers at the age of 17. 17 in numerology, called gematria, means tov. Tov is 9, vav is 6, and bet is 2. So 9, 6 plus 2 is 17. So 17 years Yaakov had his son, but his son was missing. So when a son is missing, it plays tricks in your head, because you don't know. Is he missing? Is he coming back? They don't really know about his whereabouts. Just like what happened in Israel here with the hostages. Some are dead, some are alive, and we're still debating on what to do for our children. So Vayaechi is about the life of Yaakov and how he lived. It's interesting because they also talk about the life of Sarah, Vayaechi, and she lived. But it's really about how you conduct yourself in this life for the better life. Because we all have a purpose in this life, and we all have to see what is the divine creator, what is his purpose for us in this life, and how do we match it given our freedom of choice. So what's interesting is Yaakov lived, but he also transformed his name to Yisrael because he struggled with God. He struggled with the angel of Esav, his twin brother. So what does it mean? He overcame the hikaber, that's gibur. Gibur is might. He overcame one night when he crossed the river Jordan, and he had to deal with what was uncomfortable. And here, 17 years of his life, it was good. And finally, he was reunited when Joseph's brothers went to Egypt, and then he revealed himself as Joseph. I'm your brother. God put me in Egypt for a reason. Is my father still alive? And the Pharaoh said, go get your father, bring him to Egypt. Now Yaakov didn't want to go back to Egypt. Why? Because Eretz Canaan would be the land of Israel for the 12 tribes, his 12 sons. And that was the purpose of Moses coming out of Egypt. Now we're going into Egypt. So God put a dream into his mind, and he said, listen. He said, I'm going to form you a great nation there, and I'm going to show you signs and wonders when you're in Egypt, and you're going to come out a people there. So he was 17 years, which means tov, which means good, in Egypt with his son and the other sons in the last part of his life, and he lived. Vayaechi, Vayaechi, and he lived. How did he take those years in between his 147 years? They say when he met Paro, and he wasn't as optimistic and positive about his life because he was in doubt. Doubt in numerology is also suffix, which means not clear, unclear. So we always have to take our doubts, and we have to take our unclear moments, like Yaakov, who represents really the exile, represents the night. And his father, Yitzhak, always stayed in the land of Israel. He's behind the scenes, so to speak. He did his part. He did his nisayon, or his challenge. His big challenge was the Akedah, where he was being offered as a sacrifice. And Avram said, enough you have to stay in this land. This is our land that's designated us at Mount Sinai. And we're going to keep it. And you don't come to Egypt with me. You stay in the land and remain in the land. And he did. He never left the land. And he, of all the three patriarchs, lived the longest. He lived 180. Yaakov gave so many words. Not so positive about his life because he looked, it says in the text, he looked old. And how have you been? Well, and every year, with all the blessings that Hashem gave him, he protected him under Lavan. He left Lavan's house. He protected him against his brother Esau. He overcame him. He met him with 400 generals, and he overcame them. Why could he complain? It's not right to judge anybody in their own place, because we have to fight our minds to always have clear that everything that's happening for our children is for good and for a reason. Even though when it often doesn't seem out that good. There's a divine plan that's hidden that we can't really fully understand. Today happens to be the bris of my grandson, my second grandson that carries the name, my family name, Gruber. And my brother, who had passed away, didn't have children. My sister didn't have any children either. She married late. So it's an important day. And when I went to go to the flight yesterday, full. It'd be a 26-hour, 36, 40-hour wait in between. I wasn't ready to do that. It was too taxing on me. And so I'm here. But I know my children, they live. They live with the Torah. As my son is 8 days old, in a few hours he's going to have his circumcision. That's a commandment from Mount Sinai for the Jew to accept a greater authority, which is God, the Creator. And this is the blessing of the Jewish people. Even though when darkness, Yaakov's life was really a life of darkness. My grandfather, Yaakov Temkin, lived a good life, a quiet, simple man, dedicated to Torah and learning. And his father from Slutsk, Russia, also well-learned, well-respected in the community, written about in books historically. He kept the community according to the vision of Moses from Sinai. And we too, that's our challenge as Jews today, to find unity and brotherhood, to find light in the darkness. Yaakov, or Yisrael, was the darkness. He's the third prayer in the day. There is the morning, afternoon, evening prayer. Morning's Abraham, afternoon Mincha is Yitzhak, and in the evening is Yaakov. Yaakov is this exile of Esau, who represents the Yetzer Hara, the bad inclination. Even though he had a bad inclination, he respected one thing in the Torah that was so good, that he really honored his father. He dressed up in nice clothes, and he hunted for him, and for this merit that he showed, his influence is very strong in the world. This is Western civilization, is really Esau, the builders. This is Rome, which in Hebrew is called Edom. Why Edom? Edom is red, and red is the total physicality of the nephesh, of the blood. And here we do the circumcision. We cut, and we cut a little bit, because way back when the first man and woman created, they were created, the man was complete. But when they erred in the Garden of Eden, when he ate from the tree of knowledge, which he was told there was only one tree not to eat from, and Adam and Chava and the snake, convinced that everybody doesn't take the responsibility. Everybody says, oh, it's the woman did it, this. The Torah says, whatever your values are, take the responsibilities. And the Jewish people fixed this responsibility on the 8th day of when a Jewish male is born. Because in the Garden of Eden, there was no foreskin. So this way they have to cut away the foreskin. And that's an indication that you're committed to the Holy One above as a Jew. It's one mitzvah. So we appreciate it, we give thanks. And even though I can't be there with my son, he knows I'm with him. He's going to put me on Zoom and video so I can see him, because I live in Israel. It's like 9,000 miles, you know. So it's a 10-hour trip. And I even was going to try to go business class. There was 2 or 3 delays that might be 36, 40 hours just traveling. First class, paying $20,000 for a plane ride. Didn't make any sense. But that's what we have to do sometimes. But this young man, Shalom Gruber, was an exceptional servant of Hashem. He was able to overcome many difficulties of a divorce and become industrious, develop his self in business, develop his religious awareness, because his name is Shalom. Shalom means peace. So on this holy day of my son's bris, we remember Yaakov. That was my grandfather's name. Yaakov. That's the name of one of my other children. Yaakov is the night. Yaakov is the exile. But God promised us the exile will come to an end when we'll see hidden miracles, which are seen today all over the world. Between little Israel and all its neighbors and anti-Semitism coming, it's all good. That's the Tov in the beginning of the story of the coming into Egypt, and the Tov at the other. In other words, it's in the numerology, the 3 letters Tov sum up 17 of the good years, 17 of the bad years. But we have to compress, and we have to always be happy, because it's all good. How do we know it's all good? If you add 17 plus 17, which is Tov plus Tov, you have 34. Well, you have the Parsha this week is called Vayaechi. So if you add up Vayaechi, the 4 letters, the numerology, the gematria is exactly 34. So in the beginning it's good, in the end it's good. And even though there's suffering and there's trials, we have to always find the gratitude and be able to thank the Creator for whatever good He gives us in this world. So I give a bracha to my son and to all parents who are suffering from what's happening in Israel with the terrible, terrible neighbors and enemies we have, and how they've reignited this anti-Semitism all over the world. But remember, the value of the Jew is to keep this world with light. And as long as the Jew appears in this world, the lightness of will shine for the world. But when the Jews disappear from this world, whether through their own intermarriage and all these other outside elements that take us away from our purpose, we don't need enemies. We'll completely be integrated in the world. You take a place like Vancouver, Canada, 80% of the world mixed this and that. Yosef HaTzadik Yaakov's favorite son, was the one man in Egypt that was not changed with all the sorcery. And this is the whole concept of being a Jew, is to overcome those elements that attack your persona, that attack your divine light, that attack your internal spirit. You have to push it away and know who you are as a Jew. That's what a bris is about. And with this, I wish my son and his lovely wife and the new baby, we have a custom not to name the baby before it's born. That's the way it is. The baby boy. A girl we can name before, but the boy it goes through the birth comes through the woman, and the lineage from the man is through the bris. In other words, you don't have a bris and you're Jewish. It's not like you're Jewish. Genetically you are, but it's not, it doesn't go by the law, and a person gets absolved into the general culture. So this is my light to you from this place in Jerusalem. And we are in actually a much better time today than a year ago, where we were attacked constantly. I haven't seen any missiles in a few days. That's good. Living with missiles every day. But you have to believe and you have to understand that God is running the world. He destroyed our neighbors in Syria. He destroyed them in Lebanon. He destroyed them in Gaza. He destroyed them in those Iran proxies. He took out the Houthis. So the Jewish people are cleaning up the world for the rest of the world. The rest of the world is pointing the finger at the Jew. And they don't have a clue, because they don't have the understanding and the wisdom of the Jewish people, which is all about kindness, but not a perverted kindness. It's not about lying. It's about truth. That's emes. Emes is Yaakov. And he lived, Vayaechi, which means that I'm talking right now. Even though he died thousands of years ago, his spirit is alive in me. His spirit is alive in my son today. And his spirit will be alive in his grandson once he gets the bris in 24 hours. Because this is my son, and this is his wife, and they're committed to a Jewish way to bring light into the world, in a world of great darkness, that all people could do is point the finger at Jews and say, "It's your fault, man." No, it's not our fault. You want to blame us for something that happened 2,000 years ago, for a Jew who left the fold? You're mistaken. That Jew left the fold. They made a religion out of him. 2,000 years of anti-Semitism. And the other one, Hagar, who was the maid servant to Sarah, the matriarch of the Jewish people, was banished because she was a bad influence. And this jealousy that's the core of it. It's got to stop. It started at Mount Sinai, because when the Jews took the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the oral and written tradition at Mount Sinai, that's when jealousy came to this world. And it's all about jealousy, because the Jews all over the world have advanced the purpose of the world. But the world's so foolish, they're taking in the darkness of the other religions and destroying the world. They don't see that if you destroy the Jews, you're destroying yourself, because the world was created for us. Whether you know it, whether you understand it, whether you like it, whether you like us, it really doesn't matter. We have Hashem, we have God as our back, and we are totally committed to him. How do you think I could live in the land of Israel with missiles every day and the threat? What is my fear? My fear is only God. That's the only thing you need to fear. Because without commitment and understanding, the wisdom, it's the beginning. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. But if you have no fear of God, if you only have a big arrogant ego is America. Ego was a Nazi. Yeah, that was the sign of the swastika. There was an eagle on there. This is not a kosher animal. It's a powerful animal, carries the children on their wings, but it's not a kosher animal. But we need a blend, we need a mix, we need the builders, we need the spiritual builders and the physical builders. The physical builder was Esau, Yaakov's twin brother, and the spiritual builder is Yaakov, who didn't come to fruition until he made peace with Esau. But he realized Esau, when he met him several thousand years ago, he told him, go ahead, we have our children here. We can't mix because he knows Esau the hunter will affect his children, just like Sarah saw it in prophecy, that Hagar would affect the mother of the Muslim nation. Ishmael was her son, would affect her children. So everybody's vying for this land. And the land doesn't even belong to the Jewish people. It belongs to God. But he gives us, he's loaning it to us. He says, if you show peace, if you show kindness, if you show good things, what Abraham brought to this world with his kindness, then the land is yours. When you're not united, when you're not together, you're still in exile. So I'm trying to bring us together and getting everybody on the same page. My blessing to you is be grateful, have gratitude, have thanks to God, the Creator, whoever you believe, however you believe. But leave the Jews alone, because they have a job to do. And you extinguish the Jew, you extinguish yourself. Because that's our purpose, to bring light. And right now there's more darkness than light. But you'll see, very soon the light is coming. Have a good week, have a good Shabbos.